So when we look into some of the biogeographical evidences, the most prominent ones being discontinuous distribution. Now discontinuous distribution, you can see the best example being lungfishes. You can see species of lungfishes in South Africa, in South America, in Africa and Australia. So even though these continents are widely separated from each other by vast stretches of the sea, you can still find lungfishes which are localized in these spots. That would probably tell us that at some point in the history of our planet, these continents were all a part of a huge landmass that could give us hints about the past, about the biogeographical scenario that existed once in the past. What about restricted distribution? If you think of, say, the pouched mammals which are living in Australia, and you all know that Australia also got separated from the rest of the land masses during the continental drift, and these animals must have faced very little competition from the other mammals, and as a result, they have managed to survive even today. And you all are familiar about another excellent evidence for biogeographical phenomenon, which is the evolution of different forms of these black birds in the Galapagos Island, which were famously named as Darwin's finches, since Darwin worked extensively on them, and how on the same island itself, how Darwin conjectured or guessed that these species might have evolved from a common ancestor on the same island when they started inhabiting varied habitats within the same island. Accordingly, their beaks modified themselves to suit their kind of food habits, and therefore eventually they got diverged into different species. And we have already learnt about convergent evolution, where you see convergence happening in terms of functions. You have different structures performing similar functions, but here when you talk about convergent evolution, it is in relation to adaptive radiation. When more than one adaptive radiation has happened in two different geographical areas representing isolated habitats, and those animals come to resemble each other. For example, a flying squirrel living in North America resembles a flying phalanger or a sugar glider living in Australia, because they come to inhabit the same type of habitat, but they are not in any way related closely to each other, and they live in two different geographical regions. So two animals which are living in two different geographical zones, they come to possess some similarity between each other, because they themselves are products of adaptive radiations which have occurred in those respective geographical areas. That is why we call them as convergent evolution.